Hey riders, it's Nick Ienatsch with the ChampSchool, and we are here today to talk about and illustrate one of the most misunderstood concepts in motorcycle riding, braking skills, and that is threshold braking. So what is threshold braking? Why does it matter, and how can you practice it safely? Threshold braking is the maximum amount of brake pressure you can apply before the rear tire lifts off the ground on a sport bike or the front tire loses grip on a non-sport bike. It's riding the fine line between stopping hard and not getting stopped. Riders, this is not about grabbing the brake lever. It's initiating initial brakes, moving weight forward through the fork spring into the front tire, and then squeezing the brake lever hard. Not grabbing, but initiating gently and then building up to hard brake pressure. And manufacturers of these motorcycles have spent millions and millions of dollars on ABS systems to help panicked riders, also to help us in uneven, rough, loose circumstances. But you'll notice that race bikes don't have ABS because a skilled rider on good pavement or even wet pavement, a skilled rider can stop their bike in less time and distance with proper technique than if they ABS cycle. So an ABS cycle generally lengthens the stopping distance. So what we're going to do in this video is show you how you can practice becoming that proficient, smooth rider that stops their bike in the minimum amount of distance. We talk so much about the front brake, it's the real workhorse, but it's also about managing threshold braking at the rear, taking it just to the point of lockup right before ABS or even into ABS if you need to, but managing brake pressure at the rear as well. As weight transfers forward with more front brake, the less effective the rear brake becomes because the rear tire is in such slight contact with the ground. So in threshold braking, we use the rear brake very little. Now, some modern bikes have linked brake systems that engages the rear when the front is applied, but stops using rear pressure when a certain front pressure is applied. It is modulating that rear brake is what we have to do. As front brake comes on harder, rear brake has to come off to maintain rear brake grip. So riders, start slow. That was my first time down. Get a feel for this. Get a feel for the weight transferring forward through the fork spring into the tire, building pressure. Get a feel for those arms not locked. Don't lock those elbows, leave those elbows bent, a little suspension in there. Eyes are up, we're looking at whatever the problem is that we're threshold braking for. Start to realize where you stopped, start to mark those locations if you want to practice. Years ago at the magazine, we did a braking test, and the very first rider into the test came down, snatched on the brake lever, fell down, broke his collarbone. It was really a bummer for the day. So we realized we've got to start slow and easy and realize that first 5% of brake pressure, that initial squeeze, is just to put weight forward into that front tire. For the rest of your life, unloading your mountain bike, riding your dirt bike, driving your car, always realize if you snatch on that first 5%, it gets pretty dangerous. Let me show you one where I snap on the front brake and you'll see what we've got to avoid. That is one of the hardest things an expert level rider can do because it's so counter to what is going on. That snatch blows through that fork spring. It loads that tire so quickly the back tire comes off the ground. This bike ABS, that's why you saw it jump forward to the ABS. If you do that on a dirt road, you fall down. You do it on a steel bridge, you fall down. If you do that mid-corner, you fall down. So now all of a sudden, you've quit riding the motorcycle because you fell down in the gravel because you snatched the brakes. You skipped over that first 5%. You got no feedback for that first 5%. In this case, it ABS right away. So, riders, if you feel that, you've got to smooth that out, and it's got to be for the rest of your life. Everything you do is to practice that initial brake pressure for weight transfer. We'll add one last thing to your braking practice. At the very end of your stop, control how your front rebounds by how you release that brake at the very end of the stop. It's called a chauffeur's stop in a car, but we will do it on a motorcycle every time we stop. control the front rebound by how you let go of the brakes to practice trail braking. This slow brake release to control that front end, especially on a hard stop like that, to control that front end, all that energy in that spring, that is the exact feeling you need for trail braking. So not only are we truly saving our own lives in intersections and back roads when there's things in our way by practicing this all the time, but now we are also practicing the vital skill of trail braking. Instead of running off into a corner with your new rider friend and have them trail brake into the corner right away, do a bunch of stops with them and have them control that front end. If they hold the brake too long, the bike stops and rebounds too quickly. If they jump off the brakes too soon, the bike rolls away with them. They're getting a feel for controlling front rebound as the bike stops. And the final thought on this whole idea, if you don't practice your braking, if you don't practice your threshold braking, you are hoping that the very first time you need it, you do it well, and that does not work. Less than 1% of all of you watching don't realize how hard your bike will stop, what a short distance your bike will stop in. And the only way to get that realization is not take it from us, but to practice threshold braking from the speeds you ride.